This is from Maryjayne Aria's book, Immune Health, Terrain, and GcMAF. This is from chapter 12, and it covers glioblastoma. Some stories will stay with me forever, not because they are dramatic, but because they remind you how fragile life can be and how powerful the human spirit becomes when someone is truly seen, supported, and believed in. This is not a story about defying medicine, nor about rejecting doctors. It's a story about what happens when a person given time, compassion, safety, and the right environment for the body to respond. It is about terrain, not fear, about listening, not rushing, about restoring hope where it was prematurely taken away. This journey unfolded quietly behind closed doors, far from headlines and hospital corridors. It involved late night phone calls, tears, exhaustion, laughter, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to never reduce a human being to a diagnosis. This is a story of a mother of three who was told she had months to live. And it is a story of what became possible when hope was protected, when her environment was rebuilt layer by layer, and when she was reminded that she was more than a prognosis. Barbara was 48 years old, a mother of three children, divorced, living far from her homeland of Israel in the north of England. In August 2023, her life changed in a moment she will never forget. It began with dizziness, occasional headaches, subtle warnings that something wasn't right. When imaging was finally completed, the diagnosis came with devastating finality: glioblastoma. She was told she had no more than 3 months to live. Oncology had nothing to offer beyond the gold standard palliative care pathway. No treatment plan, no options, only comfort while waiting for the inevitable. The news brought her to her knees. Her mother had passed away 5 years earlier, shortly after the birth of her second to last child. She had no siblings. Her closest friends were back in her home country, now living through war. The world around her felt impossibly quiet. Her marriage had already collapsed. Her husband was an alcoholic, and she had separated from him during the final trimester of her last pregnancy, 3 years earlier. Being a single mother is difficult, even with financial stability and emotional support. She had neither. A pattern of emotional stress and strain was building. She was surviving on government financial aid and food banks. The support barely covered groceries, heating, rent, transport, school costs, and basic needs. There was no excess, no fat to trim. Every coin already had a purpose, and still it was not enough. Debt grew quietly in the background. Once energetic and full of life, this warm, curvy woman became a shadow of herself. Fear aged her overnight. Late at night, after the children slept, she searched the internet for alternatives. That search led her to cannabis oil and GcMAF. In October 2023, I noticed a comment she left in a social media group and reached out to her. We spoke for hours that first night. Soon she became my midnight caller. Every evening the phone would ring. I learned her fears, her hopes, and her exhaustion. Because of her situation, I gave my time freely, but I also understood something important. If I was going to help her, it could not be halfway. To gain results, I would need to commit fully. I supported her emotionally and practically. I sponsored a water filtration system. I sponsored a specific cannabis blend known as M-Oil number 12, produced particularly for glioblastoma. I sponsored vials of GcMAF for nebulization and injection. I sponsored dental surgery to remove 11 amalgam fillings and 2 root canals. I sponsored ozone therapy. I sponsored IV EDTA chelation to reduce heavy metal burden. I sponsored PAPIMI therapy 3 times weekly. I paid for professional mold remediation in her home and replaced 2 old wooden windows that had been feeding mold spores into the air her children breathed. During this time, I sent her and the children away for a long weekend so they could rest and feel secure. I also arranged and paid for daily help in the home. A local woman assisted with mundane households, duties, and food preparation. This reduced her physical exhaustion and gave her time and space to grieve. For the first time, she was able to sit with the loss of her mother, the loss of her marriage, the loss of the life she believed she would never return to. This practical help also gave me gentle eyes into the home, ensuring that routines, nutrition, air quality, cleanliness, and emotional well-being were aligned with the protocol and that nothing was quietly slipping backwards. Daily environmental changes became part of her healing. Every morning, she opened the windows for a full hour, regardless of the weather. Fresh air became medicine. At night, she turned off the heating in the bedroom so the air remained cool and easier to breathe. Sleep deepened. Night breathing improved. Her nervous system finally began to settle. From the beginning, probiotics and prebiotics were introduced to rebuild her gut terrain. Foundations were laid before anything aggressive was added. During our ongoing conversations, we spoke openly about fear and mistrust of doctors. She suffered not only from the diagnosis itself, but from the way the news was delivered, the words chosen, the certainty presented, the narrative of hopelessness that was placed upon her shoulders without compassion or context. She suffered from the limitation of a system that does not allow time, a system where clinicians are often rushed, forced to follow protocols rather than people, unable to truly focus on the individual sitting in front of them. Her trauma came not from medicine itself, but from the lack of humanity surrounding the moment she was told she would die. We continue to discuss this fear. We continue to unpack it gently because healing cannot occur while the nervous system remains trapped in terror. The structure of oncology needs to change. We must never remove hope. We must never take away positivity. We must never speak finality into a body that is still breathing. We never focused on tumor size. Instead, she learned to listen to her body daily. Each shift guided protocol adjustments. After 6 months of rebuilding terrain, repurposed medications were added slowly and carefully. Fenbendazole, flubendazole, ivermectin, and additional supportive agents were layered only when her body was strong enough. Nothing was rushed, nothing was guessed. Every decision was guided by blood work. Behind the scenes, I consulted neurosurgeons, radiographers, oncologists, hematologists, and scientists across chemistry and biology. This work is rarely seen yet essential. Movement became medicine. Tai Chi entered her life. She danced with her children to the music she loved at 17. Laughter returned. Joy returned. The future began to feel possible again. She learned screaming therapy, a powerful emotional release that should never be downplayed. Trauma lives in the body and it must be allowed to leave. Slowly, unmistakable changes unfolded. She slept without night terrors. She woke rested. Her clarity returned. Her energy increased. The vomiting stopped. The headaches disappeared. Her digestion normalized. Her confidence strengthened. Her resilience grew. In April 2025, tomography confirmed what no one expected. The physical tumor had left the space in the brain it once occupied. Her specialists used the word remission. Today we speak monthly. We now work on the emotional tumor, the one that once felt heavier than any tumor visible in imaging. This is the final layer of terrain. Our conversations have changed. Our discussions are revolved around symptoms. I would ask what color her urine was, how many times she had opened her bowels, even the shape of her stool. These details mattered then. They were signals from the body as we rebuilt her terrain. Today I ask different questions. I ask what she did for fun. I ask what made her laugh. She has a wonderful sense of humor, one that survived even the darkest days. Now it surfaces often, light and effortless. Our conversations are no longer dominated by survival, but by living. Recently, I sent her a stainless steel whistle on a chain to wear around her neck. It was engraved with the words, "This whistle represents life. Do not blow it." It was not a warning. It was a reminder of how close she once stood to the edge, a reminder of how precious breath is, a reminder that life is not something to surrender to fear. She wears it not as protection, but as symbolism, a quiet promise to herself to keep breathing, keep living, and never give up on tomorrow. That shift speaks louder than any scan ever could. The mother and her children are healthier in body, mind, and spirit. Her relationship with her ex-husband is healed. He has been alcohol-free for over 1 year. He is present in his children's lives and visits regularly. Through this journey, I did not simply support a patient. I gained a friend in the family. This story is not about miracles. It's about terrain. It's about compassion. It is about time, air, nourishment, movement, emotional safety, and human connection. And it is a reminder that no matter what the diagnosis, hope must never be taken away from someone who is still alive. Once again, I couldn't have written it any better. And I'm sure you can see through this just the incredible, generous, loving heart that Maryjayne has for people.